Culver City, California, this iconic SoCal community, founded on the movie industry 100 years ago, sits nestled in the heart of Los Angeles County, Hollywood to the north, LA International Airport to the south, the Pacific Ocean to the west. Next door to Culver City sits the nearly 100-year-old Inglewood oil field. This 1,000-acre oil field is the largest urban oil field in the U.S., with its 1,700 oil wells, 500 of which are currently active. 10% of the Inglewood oil field is located directly in Culver City. The Inglewood oil field is unlike any other in the nation. It is smack dab in the middle of Los Angeles County, which is the most populated county in the country. Homes, parks, and schools surround the field. At close inspection, you can see how some of the oil wells literally sit in the backyards of people's homes. Megan Sally Wells is a Culver City Council member and former mayor.
There are 1 million people within a 5 square mile radius of this field. The type of drilling that is happening today, thanks to technology, is much more intensive than what we've seen in the past.
Sally Wells says she's concerned that the Inglewood oil field is destroying the environment and posing a serious danger to her 40,000 Culver City residents. She questions whether the field is polluting the air, poisoning the water, contaminating the soil, compromising people's health. Sally Wells says back in 2006, toxic gas fumes emanating from the field got into the air, leading some residents to evacuate their homes. And in 2011 and 2013, there were fires at the oil field. Then there are documented reports she showed us about the hydraulic fracturing or fracking here in past years. Fracking is a high-pressure technique used to drill for oil and natural gas from rock that is not easy to reach. Environmentalists say the intense drilling process of fracking does cause air and water pollution. They also claim fracking increases the potential for oil spills and could even cause earthquakes.
The most dangerous fault line is the Newport-Inglewood fault line, which is capable of causing a 7.4 magnitude earthquake. That was the fault line that goes right in the heart of the Inglewood oil field. What happens to the chemicals, to the oil, to the pipelines, to all of these dangerous materials when we get a 7.4 earthquake?
Because of these concerns, Sally Wells is trying to implement a new set of rules and regulations to give greater oversight to the Inglewood oil field on the local level. Those proposed Culver City regulations include things like banning enhanced oil drilling techniques like fracking, having a 400-foot buffer between the wells and homes, parks, and schools, implementing mandatory electric drilling rigs as opposed to diesel rigs, and no construction of new wells. Sentinel Peak Resources, based in Bakersfield, 2 hours north of Culver City, is the company which operates the Inglewood oil field. Sentinel refused to be interviewed on camera for this report. However, the company agreed to a phone interview. I spoke with Christine Halley, the Director of Environmental Health and Safety and Regulatory Affairs for Sentinel.
In the industry, we face from time to time local agencies that attempt to come in and exert ever more stringent sets of regulations over oil and gas production. We look to the state's Department of Conservation, the Division of Oil and Gas, to regulate oil and gas production. Now, there's a seated body of experienced professionals. They're knowledgeable. When local agencies seek to do that, we're always attentive as to whether they are overreaching local land use authority, where, in our opinion, the city is overreaching into areas that are definitely the jurisdiction of other regulators.
Megan Sally Wells says her city must have regulatory authority because she believes the state of California and the county of Los Angeles do not do enough to regulate the Inglewood oil field.
We are asking for transparency. There are still some inconsistencies that are troubling to us because in order to regulate, we need to have the facts.
Well, you keep saying transparency, inconsistency. What are they not being transparent about? What are they not telling you?
There could be drilling, slant drilling under our homes with consequences that we're not sure that they're safe. And we keep asking the oil company to tell us, hey, what are your plans? and where are you currently drilling underground, that's where we're running into difficulties.
So I find the remark of lack of information availability to be kind of curious. It's quite remarkable. There's an amazing amount of information that one can get regarding what the operations in the setting is, and Inglewood is no exception to that.
Dave Quast is the California Director of Energy in Depth, which is part of the Independent Petroleum Association of America. Quast represents the oil industry.
There's over 20 government organizations that have some level of regulatory oversight on this field. There are regular community meetings that tell the residents living in the communities surrounding it everything that's going on with the field. There are, of course, very rigorous state laws, the most rigorous in the country, that apply to it. So at all the different levels of government, including local, this is probably the most heavily regulated oil field you'll ever stand on.
When you hear Culver City government saying it's not properly regulated or there's not enough oversight or accountability, what does the oil industry say to that?
Well, I've certainly heard individual members of the Culver City government make suggestions like that. And in fact, I've heard them make those suggestions for years. And then, for example, the state turns around and passes a bill that we called SB4, which are the most stringent hydraulic fracturing regulations and oil and gas regulations in the nation.
They'll tell you that, this is the most highly regulated oil field in the United States. They'll tell you that we've done all these studies that prove that there's absolutely no problem whatsoever. I think it is appalling. I think it is absolutely unacceptable.
Ben Preston is an environmental scientist and senior researcher at the RAND Corporation. RAND is a nonprofit, nonpartisan global research institution studying everything from sustainability and environmental issues to technology and national security.
Fracking technology in particular has enabled the U.S. to really boost production of not only natural gas but also oil. Our oil production is effectively doubled, natural gas production's up around 50%. That's a benefit. It's allowed us to keep oil prices relatively low and gasoline prices relatively low for consumers. What it's also done is allowed electrical utilities to proceed in this sort of long-term shift away from coal toward natural gas. That has benefits both for air quality and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So the challenge is there's concerns about contamination of groundwater or surface water. There are concerns about fugitive emissions into the air from things like methane or other potential toxics being released into the air. And to top it all off, we're concerned about seismic activity and earthquakes in certain parts of the country arising from fracking. So the challenge for society is how do we balance these sort of benefits and these costs, and who gets to decide?
Megan Sally Wells says Culver City should get to decide.
To say that we don't have the right as a city to regulate what's within our boundaries is patently false. We have land use regulation, and that's our job, is to protect our residents.